To recap from the last clip, MS miking is a variation of coincident miking, which combines a forward-facing mic, the mid, with a side-facing bidirectional mic, the side. The mid and side signals are run through a matrix, which creates a normal left-right stereo signal. The mid signal alone, left plus right, is pure mono. And the side signal, left minus right, is mostly ambience and wide-positioned sound sources. Gradually mixing the side signal in with the mono mid signal widens the stereo image. At equal levels, you have full stereo. When an MS recording is played back in mono, the side is cancelled, leaving just the pure mono mid signal for 100% mono compatibility. This compatibility issue was a major consideration during the gradual transition from mono to stereo in the music industry, since many stereo recordings were heard in mono, and mono compatibility is still a consideration today. But back then, if a stereo recording was not made using MS miking, mono playback might reveal problematic phase issues. Comb filtering that added depth in stereo playback might result in nasal, unpleasant tone in mono. When stereo records were introduced, most people still had mono turntables and playback systems, so to ensure full mono compatibility when the new stereo recordings were played on older mono gear, it was decided to use MS encoding as the standard method for combining the left and right channels into a single groove on a vinyl record. As part of vinyl mastering and production, a normal left-right stereo recording is converted to MS format. A quick side note, this is actually easy enough to do. You can even do it yourself in a DAW by duplicating a stereo audio file twice, setting the original to mono, and panning both sides of one copy left and the other right, flipping the phase on one opposite side of each copy. This is a little tweaky. It's a lot easier if you have a plugin that does it for you. Anyway, the MS stereo signal is encoded in the single groove of a vinyl record as lateral and vertical channels instead of separate left and right channels. The lateral channel is the mid signal. It's represented by lateral back and forth movements of the stylus in the record groove. The vertical channel is the side signal. It's represented, naturally, by vertical motion of the stylus in the groove. In playback, with a stereo turntable, these two different stylus movements pick up the separate mid and side channels, lateral and vertical, which are then converted back to normal left-right stereo and sent on to the amp and speakers. A mono turntable and cartridge would only pick up the lateral motion corresponding to the pure mono mid signal for 100% mono compatibility. This lateral-vertical method is still the way vinyl records are made today. But besides just mono compatibility, using the MS stereo format for encoding stereo information on records has other advantages. Vinyl record production is an art involving a number of related issues and compromises. Both in the cutting stage and the playback stage, there are potential problems, like tracking and skipping, and limitations of level, bass, and running time that can be addressed by manipulating how the groove is cut and tracked, controlling the lateral and vertical motion. In the early days of stereo, mastering engineers often found that by processing the mid and side signals independently, they could optimize the signal for vinyl cutting and playback, and a number of stereo audio processors, like EQ and compressors, offer this mode of operation. A good example is the famous Fairchild 670 stereo compressor. Besides its legendary tone and dynamics capabilities, the Fairchild offered the option for either normal left-right stereo processing or lateral-vertical processing. When compressing audio to fit in the limited dynamic range of vinyl, this option was very useful back then, and with the resurgence of vinyl production lately, it's again an important and useful technique. I'll come back to this in a separate video towards the end of the course. But even if you're not planning a vinyl release, MS processing, tweaking the separate mid and side components of a stereo recording, offers some distinct advantages and very useful techniques for processing stereo recordings, from full mixes or masters to individual stereo tracks like drum overheads or instruments and vocal groups, even within a larger multi-track mix. That's what the rest of this course will get into. But first, I want to take a quick look at Logic's new dual mono plugin feature and its MS processing option.